Hello, hunters, and welcome to Superfan Natural. If you suddenly woke up in the world of Supernatural, what's the first thing you would do? If your answer is anything other than immediately seek out superpowers, then you are, as Chuck would put it,
They're stupid and crazy.
in our normal, boring world, powers would be pretty neat to have. However, in the world of the Winchesters, where there's monsters and demons, oh my god, I feel like you would want powers just to feel slightly safe. Yet most of the people we see actually going out and fighting monsters do so as regular squishy humans. However, Sam and Dean Winchester aren't most people, and over 15 seasons they managed to acquire a variety of superhuman abilities, though they don't hold on to most of them for very long, and by the end of the series they're pretty much normal dudes. Still, I thought it would be fun to go through the different powers they gain throughout the series. Before we get started, let me lay out the things that I'm not really going to talk about. The Winchesters have a lot of skills. They're both really smart, yes, even Dean. They're in really good shape, really good shape. They're experts in fighting, hunting, and impersonation. In our world, they would be borderline superhuman. However, within the world of the show, that's all stuff that any schmuck can theoretically learn with enough time and effort. I'm also not including some of the more supernatural skills, things like exorcisms or the various rituals they use to summon, banish, and bind other creatures. I really wrestled with this decision, but ultimately I decided that those skills work by manipulating the rules that govern these creatures. It's kind of like saying that the Winchesters have the power to cut off the supply of oxygen to human brains because they can choke people out. Like, yeah, technically, but that's not really a power, it's just how humans work. Spellcasting in general was sort of tough, but ultimately I decided to include instances where a spell granted new abilities or caused a major change to reality. That also means I'm not counting effects of spells that don't really grant them additional abilities, like Dean gets turned into a child and an old man, but neither of those really grant him new powers. Finally, I'm not counting powers used by any beings that possessed one of the brothers, unless the Winchester in question also used that power themselves. Like, Meg used telekinesis while possessing Sam, but that doesn't count as Sam having telekinesis. I mean, he did, but for different reasons. I'll explain in a minute. Alright, with that in mind, let's go. We'll start with a category that I call demon powers. At different points in the series, each brother gains a variety of powers that are demonic in origin, and we'll start with Sam since he has his abilities at the beginning of the series. In fact, him getting these powers is kind of what kicks off the entire story. When Sam was 6 months old, the Prince of Hell Azazel fed him some of his demonic blood, thus imbuing him with abilities that would manifest 21 and a half years later. When Mary bursts into the room and Azazel gets pissed, he kills her, and that's what thrusts John and his sons into the world of hunting. Anyway, the first and main ability that Sammy gets is Future Sight, or alternatively, Death Visions. He sees things before they happen, and those things are almost always deaths, and those deaths are usually caused by Azazel or other demonic psychics. At first these visions only came when he was sleeping, but eventually he started having them when he was awake. He never gets any kind of control over these visions, they just happen a random amount of time before the event occurs. Though one time he did get a vision while the event was actually happening across town, it's weird. Also, he doesn't get visions about every psychic kid-related death. In addition, there's at least two other abilities that Sam tapped into during his first 2 seasons. First, he uses telekinesis once to break out of a closet, though he's in a state of incredible stress and also didn't know that he could do that. Second, he's shown to be immune to certain demonic powers, most notably the Croatoan virus and Andy and Anson's mind control. He isn't immune to all powers, he could still be possessed and flung around and beaten down with super strength, but still he's got some immunities. These powers seem to go away after Azazel's death at the end of Season 2. However, in Season 3, Ruby reveals that Sam still has abilities, he just needs to learn how to activate them. And at the end of the final episode, it's shown that he still retains some resistance to demonic powers, as he's completely unaffected by Lilith's death ray. Over the course of Season 4, Sam powers up his abilities by drinking demon blood, and this diet ultimately leads him to gaining a new set of abilities that can all be more or less classified as demon manipulation. Basically, he could directly manipulate demons, not just the host they're possessing, but rather the actual demonic essence within. He could do things like pull them out of hosts and send them back to hell, fling them around along with their meat suit, torture them, and eventually he could just outright kill them. This demon-killing power eventually grows to the point that he's able to kill Lilith, the first and arguably most powerful demon. Also, when he does that, his eyes turn black, like a demon, and that's never explained, so I don't know. Anyway, in the Season 5 premiere, God teleports the brothers onto an airplane, and in the process scrubs all of the demon blood out of Sam's body and suppresses his cravings and withdrawal symptoms. He doesn't completely remove them, as it's shown that the presence of famine can reactivate his cravings. After Season 5, Sam never uses his powers again, and it's unclear if he can still use them at the end of the series. I mean, he probably could up until the end of Season 13, but after Lucifer was killed, who knows? Now on to Dean's demon powers, his Demon powers. In Season 9, Dean acquires the Mark of Cain, which imbues him with several abilities. The most notable of which is the ability to use the First Blade. I mean, anyone can use the blade as a regular indestructible bone weapon, but with the Mark, it becomes capable of killing pretty much anything. The Mark also makes Dean almost impossible to kill, and it gives him certain resistances to powers like telekinesis, and even gives him the ability to telekinetically summon the blade to him. After being killed by Metatron, the Mark revives Dean as a demon, and as such, he was given a few extra demon powers. These include superhuman strength, regeneration, and immortality, and also possibly other demon powers that he just didn't use. Cain became a demon in the same way, and he could do a bunch of stuff we didn't see from Dean, like teleportation and demon smiting. Part of that could be because Dean just wasn't a demon for very long, but who knows. Anyway, he was cured after 3 episodes, but retained his pre-demon Mark of Cain powers, which he keeps until the end of Season 10, when the Mark is removed. Next, we'll move on to the angelic powers category, because again, both brothers gain angelic abilities at different times, kinda. Both get possessed by angels at different points in the series, but Dean is the only one who's able to really consciously use angelic powers. In the Season 3 finale, Dean is possessed by the Archangel Michael from the Apocalypse world. He willingly allows this to happen on the condition that Michael lets him retain control to fight Lucifer. As a result, he's able to use some of Michael's powers. Well, I mean, he could probably have used most of them, but we only see him use a select few. These include teleportation, probably super strength and super durability, the ability to use the full power of the Archangel Blade, and most notably, he could fly, and it looked spectacular. After the fight, alternate Michael takes control, and I don't count anything he does after that as a power that Dean had. Even after Dean manages to regain control and suppress Mike, he doesn't seem to use any of his powers again, and eventually Mikey leaves his body and gets toasted by Jack. Sam also gets possessed by not one, but 2 angels, though unlike Dean, he doesn't really get to actively use any of their powers himself. The only thing that might count as an angelic power that he gets use out of is surviving the first half of Season 9. Basically, after failing to complete the trials in Season 8, Sam is left broken and dying. In order to save his brother, Dean helps the angel Gadriel possess Sam's body so that he can help heal him from the inside. So yeah, Sam benefits from his presence even when Gadriel isn't in control, so it kinda counts, I guess. If you don't like it, tough. Make your own video and we'll have a very public YouTube beef. It'll be great for engagement. Next we have ghost powers. Ooh, spooky. Unlike the other categories, this is a set of abilities that the Winchesters had at the same time. In Season 4, the psychic Pamela causes Sam and Dean to astral project, basically turning them into ghosts that still had living bodies. As such, they had a few ghostly powers in this state, like seeing ghosts while being invisible to the living. They could walk through walls, disappear, not fly, but teleport, and with a little bit of concentration, they could interact with the physical world both telekinetically and directly. Also, since they were still tied to their bodies, they could hear things that were said directly into their unconscious ears. Sam only does this once, I think, but Dean actually had these abilities back in Season 2, when his near-death experience caused him to sort of naturally exit his body. Next we have luck, which may not seem like a power, but it is. Throughout most of the series, Sam and Dean actually possessed a little extra luck that was given to them by God. It wasn't necessarily a huge amount, it didn't turn them into Domino or anything, but it did make them a little harder to beat. It also let them avoid a lot of the minor inconveniences that normal people have to deal with, things like cavities and random car troubles. This wasn't the only instance of them getting extra luck. In Season 3, they came across a cursed rabbit's foot, which grants them unimaginable good luck. In this instance, it did turn them into Domino, as it lets Dean pull only winning scratch tickets, and Sam becomes the special millionth guest at a restaurant, and both of them are able to win fights without even trying. The downside is that if you lose the foot, your luck becomes unimaginably bad, and basically turns your life into a Final Destination movie. Sam gets to experience both extremes, though he has way more bad luck than good, and Dean only really gets the good luck since the charm is destroyed right after he gives it up. They keep their God-given luck until Season 15, when God becomes their enemy and takes it away. They get more, though, from the goddess Fortuna, but I don't really know if they still have any of that after the showdown with Chuck. Based on how Dean died, I'm guessing no. The last power that was shared between the bros was dreamwalking. In Season 3, the Winchesters take a special African dream root, which gave them the ability to enter and manipulate the dreams of other people. They don't use it as much as the villain of the episode, but they do enter Bobby's dreams, and later Sam also enters Dean's dream and manages to manipulate it in order to kill the villain. I'm assuming that this power goes away after the root fully exits their system, and they never take it again. Alright, now onto the powers that were unique to each brother. We'll start with Dean because he had a few more. First, in the Season 3 finale, Dean gains the ability to see hellhounds as well as the true faces of demons due to the fact that he's so close to the end of his allotted year of life. The biggest advantage to this is that he's able to see if a person is possessed, and this actually saves a little girl's life. In Season 6, he gets turned into a vampire and thus gains their abilities including super strength and senses, immortality, inhuman durability, and fangs. He also has a psychic connection to the alpha vampire, though this really only amounts to him picking up the psychic call to action. He gets cured at the end of the episode, which was only possible because he had never fed on human blood. Later in Season 6, he puts on Death's ring, and thus gains his powers. Now Death has a lot of power, but Dean only uses a few, notably teleportation, invisibility, and of course his touch causes people to die instantly. These powers go away after he removes the ring and returns it to Death at the end of the episode. Also in Season 6, Dean is taken to the fairy realm, which gives him the ability to see fairies, and unlike pretty much everything else on this list, there's no indication that this ever went away. In Season 9, Dean uses a spell that gives him the senses of a dog. It also allows him to communicate with all animals, because apparently all non-human animals have a universal language, which, boy, I really don't know how that works, but whatever. This goes away after the spell wears off, and they never revisit this concept. Thank Chuck. Speaking of Chuck, throughout Season 11, Dean has a connection to God's sister, the Darkness, which gives him some level of resistance or immunity to some of her powers. Finally, in the Season 11 finale, Dean is loaded up with tens of thousands of souls, which turn him into a bomb capable of killing the Darkness. He doesn't activate it, and Chuck removes the souls a short time later, meaning that we don't get to see what kind of an explosion it would produce. Next we have Sam, who doesn't really get a lot of goofy one-off powers. Instead, when he gets special abilities, they're usually tied to the arc of the season and last multiple episodes. He does, however, get one set of wacky one-off powers. In Season 5, Gabriel turns him into a sentient Knight Rider car, which I feel definitely counts as a superpower. It only lasts a couple scenes before it's undone, which is a bummer. Anyway, in Season 6, Sam is brought back from hell without his soul, which sucks, but did have a few perks. He no longer needed to sleep and barely seemed to need to eat. He also was immune to certain magical abilities. Most notably, the goddess Veritas couldn't compel him to tell the truth, which is kind of her whole thing. He didn't feel emotions in the same way, which was arguably a superpower as it gave him focus and made him harder to manipulate. Eventually he gets his soul back and returns to normal, until Season 8 when he performs the trials to close the gates of hell. After the first two, he begins to resonate with Metatron, which, if nothing else, helped him find the scribe. He very nearly completes the last one, and if he had, he would have not only closed the gates of hell, but sealed them forever. He doesn't though, and the power dissipates, which leaves him in the near-death state I mentioned earlier. After Season 9, Sam gets a bit of a break until Season 14. In the finale, when he shoots God with the equalizer, it creates a connection between them. As such, Sam starts having visions of other universes where he sees alternate versions of him and his brother living through different versions of their story orchestrated by Chuck. This ends after the wound is repaired later in Season 15. So I said earlier that spellcasting gave me some issues, and that's mostly because of Sam. Throughout the later seasons of the show, Sam uses magic to do some pretty cool things, like transport people to hell and open rifts to other worlds. The thing is, he does this mostly by just reading instructions written by someone else, which, is that a power then? I mean, yeah, they work, but theoretically anyone could do that. Hell, a trio of teenagers learns a body-swapping spell by just reading a book. However, in Season 15, Sam is given half of a resurrection spell, and he's able to complete it without any real help and successfully brings someone back to life. That's real spell work, I can't deny that. So, yeah, I guess that counts. And yeah, that's basically every power used by the Winchesters. I'm sure I missed something, and if I did, make sure to let me know in the comments. While you're there, do the stuff that every YouTuber wants. I'm still not entirely sure what the schedule for this channel will be, but right now I think that starting in March, I'll be putting out one video a month, just like my other channel, Look What You Learned, which you should also check out. We'll see how things go, but for now, carry on,